If you want to build strong, powerful, or explosive legs, it's time to add one of these kettlebell swing variations into your program. Kettlebell swings are a fantastic way to build strength, power, and explosiveness in your lower body. And here's the great thing, it doesn't require you to run or jump, things that may be a little bit more aggressive and may irritate cranky joints like your ankles, knees, or hips. So whether you're somebody that's in a return to play mode, maybe you're a gen pop person just trying to shed a little bit of body fat, or you're somebody that wants to build power and explosiveness, kettlebell swings are a great way to do that. So in this video, I'm going to give you 10 of my favorite variations, as well as how I coach and cue the lift. It's probably a little bit different than what you've seen in the past, but I think it's a very streamlined and effective approach to help everybody swing more effectively. Now, before we jump into this video, take 2 seconds out of your day, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel so you know each and every week when a new video drops. Now, let's jump into these swings. All right, so the kettlebell swing starts with the foundation, which is just the swing itself. And as promised, I'm gonna coach it and cue it the way I do here at iFast. There's tons of different ways you can do this. If you wanna do it hard style, soft style, if you're doing it very aggressively, or you're doing it for really long time durations in a more competitive fashion, doesn't matter to me, but I want you to know how I coach and cue it here. So whenever I set up, I'm gonna get my feet a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. I'm gonna set the kettlebell out in front of me, and I wanna make sure I've got a good foot contact with the ground. The kettlebell is out in front so that my first move is directly back. I try and think about hiking a football. So if you've got your offensive lineman, he snaps it to the quarterback, that's essentially what you're doing, and then you're just popping the hips forward. So just smooth and controlled throughout. Again, a little bit of aggressive pop at the end, but nothing crazy. More than anything, I'm thinking about pushing my feet through the floor. So once you've dialed in your standard swing, it's time to get a little bit more sexy, a little bit more exotic. So one of my favorite variations is a single arm kettlebell swing. And I really like this because it adds an element of rotation into the exercise. So setup is virtually the same, kettlebell's out in front, I've just got one hand on the bell, I'm gonna snap it back and pop my hips forward. I like to add just a little bit of pronation at the midpoint and then just let the bell float at the top. Okay, our third kettlebell swing variation is an alternating kettlebell swing. So instead of just doing all the reps with one arm at a time, now we're gonna switch and pass the bell between sides. So I like this, it's just a little bit more athletic version of the previous exercise, but again, just making it smooth and athletic, feeling the whole foot and pushing through the floor to pop up. Okay, so our fourth kettlebell swing variation is a 2 kettlebell swing. I really like this if your primary goals are strength and power production. Now, big thing here is once the kettlebells get heavy, you're really gonna have to work on maintaining and controlling your center of gravity front to back. So the bells are out in front, I've got a nice setup, I'm gonna come back and punch forward. Big thing you're gonna wanna focus on here too, make sure you've got those feet wide at the start so you don't bump into your thighs when you're doing the reps. Okay, our fifth kettlebell swing variation is a contralateral split stance swing. Now, the great thing about this is it gets us out of this more bilateral symmetrical stance and gets us into more athletic stances that we might see in whatever sport we might play. So when we're doing this exercise, we're gonna start in a split stance, and the goal is to load this front hip. So once I'm set up here, I'm gonna think about inhaling as I come back and exhale to push. So I'm balanced through my front foot, inhale, exhale, punch. Every rep, trying to get that expansion in that front hip and then load and explode to come out. Okay, our sixth kettlebell swing variation is an ipsilateral split stance kettlebell swing. Now, the previous exercise was great if you've got somebody bigger, stiffer, they struggle to load their hips. This is for the client or athlete that struggles to produce force, or maybe they go into a position and struggle to come out. So what I'm gonna do here is, now I'm gonna have my right foot in front, the kettlebell is gonna be in my right hand. So same setup, thinking about tripod foot here, nice and stable, and then I'm pushing through the ground. But having the kettlebell on the same side helps me control that rotation and make sure that I don't get buried in the bottom of my swing. Okay, our seventh kettlebell swing variation is the Saturday Night Fever swing. Possibly Bill Hartman's favorite swing because it's his favorite movie. Now, if you want to do this the right way, what's really great about this exercise is you're getting some internal rotation through that entire lower extremity. So if I'm doing this on my right leg, my foot's gonna flatten, my tibia is gonna internally rotate, and I'm gonna push through the ground. So here's how it looks. A little bit different, and I use a little bit of momentum to get going, but I just let that foot kind of flatten out. I'm pushing through the ground, the left leg comes behind, and I'm thinking about pushing to come up every single rep. Okay, next up, we have our staggered stance kettlebell swing. This is a fantastic option because a lot of people have lower back pain when they do the standard bilateral versions. They get a lot of compressive forces, pushes them forward, and their back hurts. So all we're gonna do in this case is offset the stance very, very slightly. So in this case, left hand, left foot is behind the right, and all I'm gonna do is hinge back and punch forward. Again, that little bit of offset or staggered stance helps reduce lower back pain, makes the exercise feel a lot better. Okay, getting close to the end here, my friend. Our 9th kettlebell swing variation comes from the one, the only BJ Gaddour. It's called a skier swing. And I had never done this before. Met BJ, he's like, you gotta try it. It feels great, especially if people have hip or knee pain. So all you're gonna do in this case, instead of having a wider, a little bit more toes out stance, you're gonna start with just a basic hip width stance, hinge back and punch forward. So pretty straightforward, really. Start with the kettlebells a little bit out in front, come back, and then punch through the ground. I just think push or punch through the ground every single rep. And last but not least, number 10 is our offset skier kettlebell swing. So it's the exact same exercise we just did, just instead of having weights in both hands, we have a little bit of offset. So that's gonna help us find that left side and help us push off that left side a little bit more. All right, my friend, that does it for today. 10 of my favorite kettlebell swing variations. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you watch my entire exercise variation playlist. It's a little short now, but we're gonna be building it up over the years because we wanna make sure that you find the best activities for yourself, your clients, or your athletes.